Hey there and welcome to PHLEARN. My name is Aaron Nace. I'm going to show you how to create an awesome graphic glowing effect in Photoshop. So let's get started here in Photoshop with our sample image. You can actually download this on phlearn.com. Just follow the link right down below. So I'm going to start off by going to my tools right over here. You can see I have my rectangle tool. We're just going to go, in this case, to our triangle tool. Of course, you can use whatever tool that you want. I'm going to go ahead and click and drag here with my tool, making sure I hold shift, and that's going to keep my aspect ratio. And then if you need to, you can hold the space bar, and that's going to allow you to make this larger or smaller. Something like that looks pretty good. That's going to create this triangle on a new layer. Now I'm going to flip this upside down. So let's hit Control-Command-T. We're going to right click and I'm going to go to flip vertical. There we go. And hit enter. And then I'm going to just use my move tool to kind of just move this right down there. That looks pretty good. Maybe let's make it a little bit bigger. Control-Command-T, and we're just going to make that just a little bit bigger and bring this here. Basically, the idea is that I want to make this triangle kind of encompass my subject. It's going to cut out my subject, but I do want his hair to kind of like come through the top. I think it's going to be a cool effect. So first thing we need to do is kind of expand our image just a little bit. So let's hit C for the crop tool. And then I'm just going to click on my left edge and drag that out. And on our right edge, we're going to drag that out too and hit this checkbox right up here at the top. Here we go. Now I need the background to be black. So I'm going to go ahead and click here on my base layer. We're going to grab our adjustment layers and go down to where it says solid color. So let's go to a solid color and I'm going to go all the way to black. And then we're just going to put that underneath our subject. All right, that looks pretty good. Now our triangle here, we can actually make this whatever color we want. So if you double click on your triangle, you can see you can change the color here. There we go. Or you can simply go back to your shape tool and then change the fill color and the stroke color. In this case, we're going to keep the fill at nothing. So there's nothing inside of it, as you can see, but the stroke is going to be this green color. And I think that green actually looks pretty cool because we have some green in our image. Now, I will say when I chose this image, I wanted an image that was kind of backlit from both the left and the right, so I could use this lighting with the triangle to interact with my subject. So you can see there's not a lot of light in the front of my subject. It's mostly coming from the side and from the other side. So that's gonna make it look more realistic and just kind of make the effect look cooler in general. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm gonna just hit Control-Command-T. Let's resize our triangle just a little bit. I wanna just put it right in about the area that we want. Fantastic. Now, I can actually use the triangle itself to create a layer mask for my subject. So I'm going to hold Control or Command and click here on the triangle layer. There we go. And you're going to see it's just going to turn it into a selection. I've got the little marching ants. Now that it's a selection, let's go ahead and click on our layer with our subject. Let's just go ahead and call this subject. Fantastic. And I'm going to click on my layer mask icon right down here, and that's going to simply turn my selection into a mask, and it's going to only make it visible exactly where that triangle was visible. Okay, now if you decide later you want to move your triangle, that's totally okay. You can just redo your layer mask. You can see it doesn't take long. Now in this case, I actually do want my subject hair to kind of stick out of that. So we're going to click on our layer mask for our subject, and I'm just going to work with my brush tool. So let's hit B for the brush tool. And I'm going to make my brush nice and small, and I'm going to go ahead and paint white on my layer mask, which is going to allow my subject's hair to kind of come out of the top of the triangle. Now, you can see my subject is already on a black background. If your subject is on a relatively complicated background, that's totally okay. You can just select out your subject by simply clicking on your layer mask and going to select and then down to select subject. There you can see, and it does a nice job selecting out your subject, and then you could just use that as layer mask and then paint black on your background. So let's go ahead and bring it back to where we're at now. I think this is starting to look really good. We do want to just go ahead and make it invisible right over here because there was a little bit of stuff in the background. Now the triangle itself, I want to make invisible right over here as well. As you can see, it kind of overlaps my subject. So let's click on this triangle. I'm going to click on my layer mask icon, just a white layer mask for now. And then let's go ahead and use my lasso tool to start with. So I'm going to hit L for my lasso tool. We're just going to make a nice lasso selection right around there. And then on the layer mask, we're going to go to Edit and down to Fill. And then we're just going to fill this with black. Let's hit OK there. There we go. And then I'm going to come in here with my brush tool and just do a little bit of cleanup. There we go, to make it really look like it kind of just, goes right to the hair and then stops. And then here a little bit of cleanup as well. Pretty cool. So now I want to create a little bit of a glowing effect with this triangle. And you can do that with layer effects, but I actually kind of prefer to do this manually. So let's just duplicate this layer. I'm going to create a duplicate of the layer by clicking and dragging it to the new layer icon. That duplicates the layer. And now you can see it's actually a shape layer. You can see right here, this little icon denotates that it's a shape layer. I just want it to be a regular layer. So I'm going to create a new layer right above it, a regular layer, and then shift click the two of these layers and hit Control-Command E. Now you can see this is just a regular layer. I don't have any shape layer icon. It's a regular layer, and if I use my move tool, you can see I can just move that around. Now that this is a regular layer, what we're going to do is turn it into a smart object because I'm going to apply a blur to this. So let's go ahead and right click on this, and we're going to go down to where it says Convert to Smart Object. So let's go ahead and convert that to a smart object. The reason I'm doing this is I want to apply a blur, and I can change this blur at any time. So let's go to Filter, we're going to go to Blur, and I'm going to go to Gaussian Blur. And this is really going to be the key to creating this glow effect, because you can see as I create more of a Gaussian blur, I'm simply going to get more and more of effects. So let's just do a little bit of a Gaussian blur to start with. I'm just going to zoom in, and here we can see there's our before and after. Now I want to duplicate this a few times. Let's hit Control-Command-J to duplicate that, and then this time I can click on the Gaussian blur, and I can make it a little bit bigger. All right. Let's hit Control-Command-J again, double click on my Gaussian blur, and we can make it a little bit bigger. So this way I'm able to get a few different blurs on the edge, and it's going to start to make it look a little bit more realistic and give me more depth every time I do this. So I highly recommend, there we go, just creating multiple versions of this, and then because they're smart objects, you can change these blurs at any time. All right. So here you can see there's the original one. I'm going to put one more of those even. There we go. And I can change this Gaussian blur simply by double clicking right here where it says Gaussian blur. There we go. And I can kind of just tailor this however I want to. That's looking really good. So let's go ahead and zoom out here. I just want to show you how these layers really make a difference. So let's go ahead and turn these all off. So we're back to just the original triangle, and I'm going to turn these on, and you can see how each one of these glows really makes a difference in that image. It really adds to the glow. So I recommend doing this in multiple layers, and then you can just change the blur at any point in time. Fantastic. Now I am actually going to just duplicate this triangle in general. Let's click on the shape tool. I'm going to go ahead here to my shape tool, and then I'm going to stroke this just a little bit less. There we go. Fantastic. So this is going to be just a little bit like smaller than the other shape. And I'm going to change this layer. We're going to change this from a normal. I'm going to go to color dodge. Okay. And this is just going to allow me to color dodge right here in the middle. There you can see it's a little bit too small right now. Let's go ahead and change my stroke to be a little bit bigger. There we go. Something like that. I want to give it like a strong, bright core to that triangle. Okay. So I'm pretty happy with that effect. Overall, I think it looks great. We can just go ahead and shift click all those and group them together. Now, you guys are going to be able to download this PSD file as well on PHLEARN.com for free. So just follow the link right down below. You can see how we did this. Now I'm going to hit Control-Command-J to duplicate that entire triangle group, and then I'm going to just merge it with itself. So Control-Command-J, and then I'm going to hit Control-Command-E. That's just going to allow me to merge it with itself. So now all that stuff we can see is just in one layer. Okay, so I'm really just kind of like adding to that glow effect now. This is looking really good. So what I want to start to do is bring in some of the color from this glowing triangle to my subject's face. So let's go ahead and here we have our subject. We're going to create a new layer right above my subject. And in this case, I'm actually going to grab a solid color fill layer. All right, we can make this any color. I'll just show you, doesn't matter what color you start with, you can change this at any time. Now, on this layer itself, we're gonna right click and we're gonna go down to where it says create a clipping mask. I want this to only be visible where my subject is visible. That's really important, okay? Now, we're gonna change this layer from normal. We're gonna try color dodge to start with. There we go. So it's just gonna like really show up in those highlights. Now, color dodge works pretty well, but we do need to change a couple things. First, I only want this to be visible in the highlights. In fact, let's just change it back to a normal blend mode. There we go. So we can show you how to make this only visible in the highlights. We're going to double click right here on the layer itself. And here where we see blend if, we're going to use this bottom layer where it says underlying layer. and here this little slider here, I'm gonna hold Alt or Option and separate these two out. Okay, so let's go ahead and try that. We'll bring this up here, Alt or Option, and I'm just gonna start separating these two out, and it's gonna make this layer only visible in the highlights. So it's literally making this layer disappear from the shadows, which is what we want, right? Because this is supposed to be like a lighting effect. All right, let's go ahead and try that. So again, this layer right now is set to a normal blend mode. So if I turn this off or on, you can see a normal blend mode, but it's only visible in the highlights because we used blend if. Let's go ahead and change our layer blend modes. We're gonna go from normal, let's try screen to start with, okay? We can go color dodge, which is gonna add a little bit more color, and we can even try things like overlay. All right, let's stick on overlay for now. I'm gonna change this color. I want it to be a green color, so let's double click there. There we go. I can use my eyedropper here to actually choose this color, just to show you that you can choose whatever color you want to start with. It doesn't really matter. That's why I chose a solid color fill layer, so you can change this at any time. There we go. So now I have this green color overlay on my subject. Really cool, but I still don't want it to be visible everywhere. So let's click on our layer mask. I'm gonna hit Control-Command-I to invert that, and then with my brush tool, we're just gonna paint it white, especially like right here, right around the hair. All right, we're gonna go ahead and make sure we have some of this visible on our subject's face, where this green is supposed to be intersecting with the light on our subject. Remember earlier, we said we wanted something that was lit from the side, and this is why, because we can bring some of this light from the triangle onto my subject's face, okay? And I got some cues from the colors that were actually in this image to begin with. There we go. That's starting to look really, really good. So now let's go ahead and see about adding more color to this image. Maybe I want to just change the color here on the left-hand side. So what we're going to do is over top of everything, I'm going to grab a hue/saturation adjustment layer. Okay, I'm going to click on this Colorize button. Now let's go ahead and bring our saturation up and start changing our colors. You can see this just kind of colorizes everything. It's kind of the quick and dirty way of doing this. I'm going to click on my layer mask and hit Control-Command-I to invert it. And then now I can start colorizing this background, and check this out, I can do the hair a little bit while I get there, okay? Just a little bit. I want to do the hair mostly with like overlay layers because it's going to look a little bit more realistic. There we go. And I can start bringing this blue in here as well. Look at that, really quick and easy way to do that. And then right here above my subject, let's go ahead and just grab another solid fill color layer. Okay, let's just choose a blue color in this case. Fantastic. We're gonna go ahead and clip that to my subject just like we did before and make it only visible in the highlights. There we go, looking good. We're gonna change this from normal. We're just gonna go to an overlay. Fantastic, and I can turn this off and on and you can see, let's just make it a little bit darker. So my color, we're gonna make it darker and a little bit more saturated. There we go. Now we're gonna invert our layer mask by hitting Control-Command-I, and then we're gonna go ahead and paint this in. So it's gonna look like some of that blue color from the blue glow on the left-hand side is actually overlapping the subject on the left-hand side. And then, you know what? Just here at the very top, we can just start having a little bit of fun with it. Let's just grab this green color here. We're gonna paint over our subject. We're gonna change this from normal to soft light, okay? So we're just gonna get even more of this green effect going on right here on the right-hand side of our subject. All right, and I'm just gonna grab this blue color and we're gonna go ahead and grab this and paint it a little bit on the left-hand side there as well. And just go ahead and kind of paint that in there. So you can see we can kind of add to this effect and really start that glow to come through and make it look like it's actually affecting the colors of my subject. Let's go ahead and I'm gonna grab one more hue saturation adjustment layer. Okay, we're gonna click on this Colorize icon. And let's go ahead and bring our saturation up. I'm gonna hit Control-Command-I to invert my layer mask. And then now, there we go. Let's go ahead and paint white on our layer mask. We're gonna paint white, and this is just gonna help me bring some of this blue color here from the left. It's gonna help me bring it onto the shirt of our subject. There we go, just by bringing a little bit of that blue color there. It's gonna kind of sell that effect a little bit more. All right, we want to just make it nice and patchy and blotchy with the hair to make it look like it's kind of visible in some areas and not in some other areas. There we go. That's looking really good. Let's go ahead and make it invisible from some of these highlights. Nice, that's looking really cool. So that Colorize on the left-hand side works really well. Let's go ahead and paint a little bit here. And let's do something similar on the right-hand side. So I'm gonna hit Control-Command-J on that. We're just gonna go ahead and fill the layer mask with black. And then, well, I need it to be white to see what I'm doing. We're just gonna double click here and we're gonna change the hue to something that's green. Now I'm just choosing this green and the blue because I kind of like it and I think it works with my subject, but obviously you guys can choose any color you want here and work with any type of image. So I'm just kind of bringing in a Colorize here at the very end, and this is gonna allow me to just kind of work with these colors here and bring everything together, kind of make it look like the glow of that graphic outline is actually affecting my subject. Here we go. A little bit of the hair, bring it in there. And I think that's looking really, really cool. All right, so we can see that Colorize just kind of like brought all the colors together just a little bit more, and it's helping everything look more realistic. All right, now here to finish this off, I'm gonna go ahead and grab my brush tool. We're just gonna grab this color here and just create these nice little glows. We're just gonna change this from normal down to color dodge. There we go, to make it look like it's kind of glowing. Fantastic, right here at the edge and right here at the edge here as well. Grab this green color and kind of bring this up. Create some nice glow effects. This color dodge adjustment layer really kind of like makes that glow a little bit more pronounced and makes it look like it's interacting with your subject a little bit more. There we go. Nice. I think I overdid it on the hair a little bit. That's no big deal. You can just click on your layer mask and just paint black on that layer mask at any point in time, and you are good to go. All right, now here at the very end, I just recommend doing a little bit of, kind of like give and take a little bit. I'm just looking at my layers and I'm turning these off and on just to see like, hey, did I overdo it on any of these layers? Sometimes it's easy to kind of overdo things, especially when you just stack these effects on one after another. So I like to just turn these layers off and on to see like, okay, did I actually help here, or what did I do this a little bit too much? That's the goal here, is trying to figure out every one of these layers, like, did it help or did it hurt? Let's go ahead and group these together. Shift click all these layers and then hit Control or Command G to group these together. And then here you can see there's just my overall effect. I do like it, but I think I just overdid it a little bit. Totally normal in Photoshop. So I'm gonna just take that entire group and I'm gonna lower down the opacity. There we go. I think it's just gonna make it look more realistic in general. Let's go ahead and group this together. Double click there and call that our subject. I think this came out really, really cool. Let's just make this layer visible and invisible. Again, I think I overdid it a little bit on the hair there. So I can just put a layer mask for this entire group and layer mask out the hair. Really easy here at the end. You don't even have to go in and find all the individual layers. You can just go in and change exactly what you need. Perfect. I think this is looking great. So again, I'm just gonna duplicate to show you this is completely non-destructive what we've done here, by the way. Let's go ahead. I'm just gonna duplicate our subject and just turn off our layer mask. Don't forget, you guys can download the sample PSD for free on PHLEARN.com. Just follow the link right down below. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Thanks so much for watching. If you did like it, hit that subscribe button. We'll send you free tutorials every week. I'll PHLEARN you later. Bye everyone.